Recently I've seen quite a few videos going over the creation of iconic lightsabers within the Star Wars universe using Jedi Survivor's lightsaber customization symbol. In the future I'll definitely be doing my own take on those, however today I thought I'd do some recreation of iconic droids using BD-1. BD-1's customization system is just as good as the lightsaber, so I thought it would be a ton of fun to do this, and I've not really seen anyone else do it either, so be sure to stick around until the end of the video, and comment below what characters you'd like to see me do in future videos like this. But before I do get into it, it is also worth noting that I don't own absolutely everything in the game yet, so there may well be some better options for particular characters, but I am only going based on what I have so far. For character number 1, I'll be doing a BD build inspired by C-3PO from The Phantom Menace. So to do this, all you need to do is get the assembly gear for everything, which you can get pretty much at the start of the game. Then as for the materials, you need to use aged iron primary, droid red for the secondary, droid yellow for the accent, and as for his condition, I would recommend going for aged. Now this next build is inspired by C-3PO from Attack of the Clones. Now for this I would recommend using BD-1 for everything, however for his audio sensors and his body I would recommend sticking with assembly. As for the materials, I would recommend using aged iron for the primary, secondary and accent colours, as 3PO is very plain in that film, and for his condition I would go with worn, but you could also use aged as well, however it is a little bit darker. This third build is once again inspired by C-3PO, but this time it's from 3PO during the Clone Wars and beyond. So for BD-1's parts I would recommend sticking the exact same, so his photoreceptors and head are BD-1, as are the legs, and then his body and audio sensors are still assembly. As for the materials however though, I would recommend using the electrum plated material for primary, secondary and accent, and then his condition I would recommend well kept, but I think worn is also a good look as well. Pristine is also obviously very valid, but it's just too much chrome for me in my opinion, but the choice of course is up to you. BD build number 4 is inspired by CC-14 from The Phantom Menace, and this build is the exact same as C-3PO from the last build, however instead of using the electrum plated materials I would recommend using the Imperial Chrome materials, which are right next to the electrum plated anyway. As for the condition, the lowest I would go honestly is well kept, as I'm not a huge fan of how worn looks on this, but you could also of course go to pristine as well. Build number 5 is inspired by R-3PO from The Empire Strikes Back. Now I promise guys this is the final protocol droid in this video. As for the parts it is the exact same as the last couple. However, I would recommend using the plastoid red colour for primary, secondary and accent, and as for the condition you could use well kept, but I would also recommend using worn as well if you want a slightly darker look. If you want to go a bit brighter then of course you could use pristine, but I like how well kept takes a little bit more of the shine away from it. So I've just done 5 builds about protocol droids, and now I'll be doing 5 builds about astromechs, and as you can see this one is inspired by R2-D2. Now for the parts I would recommend using BD Astro for everything, given that this was in the deluxe edition, and then for the primary material I would recommend using Inquisitor White, for the secondary material I would recommend using stainless Durasteel, for the accent colour I would recommend using Droid Blue, and then for the condition I would recommend using well kept, but pristine does also work as well. Obviously everything that I've just used is in the deluxe edition pack, so it obviously is the absolute accurate R2-D2 that you could use. This next build is inspired by R2-KT, and for those who don't know, R2-KT is a bit of a lady friend for R2, and since she is an R2 unit I would recommend using the BD Astro for everything once again. And for her materials I would recommend still using the Inquisitor White primary, the stainless Durasteel secondary, however for her accent colour to get that pink I would recommend using the Coruscant pink from the Coruscant paint pack. Again for her condition I would recommend using well kept, but pristine is also another very good option. This next build is inspired by R4P17, which is Obi-Wan's personal astromech droid. Once again I would recommend keeping with the BD Astro parts, and then for the materials I would recommend using the Inquisitor White primary, the aged iron secondary, and then the plastoid red accent colour, and then I would recommend using a worn condition. You could use well kept or even pristine as well, but I like how worn keeps it a bit of a darker red, which is more akin to R4. Now the only problem I have with this is that the grey really overpowers the red in this build, but you really want to have the red parts on the body and legs as well, which is why it is this way. Now in order to change that you could use the Kaminoan head instead. However, that does add quite a lot of white, which is not something you really want for an astromech that has grey and red only colours. This next build is inspired by R2-Q5 of the Empire. Now for his parts I would recommend using BD Astro for everything except from the head. If you use the BD Astro head, you have too much orange in my opinion, so the best alternative that I have at the moment I would say is rugged. As for the materials, I would recommend using the plastoid black primary, the droid orange secondary, and then the plastoid black accent. Alternatively, you could have a plastoid black secondary colour with a droid orange accent colour, however for me personally this is too much orange. This 10th and final build is inspired by BB-8 from the sequel trilogy. For the parts we'll go for BD Astro with everything. As for the materials, I'd recommend using the Inquisitor white for the primary and Inquisitor white for the secondary, and then for the accent colour I would recommend using droid orange. And then to make the orange as bright as possible, I would recommend using the pristine condition. Now ideally I would like to find a brighter orange, but with what I have this will have to do for now. So guys, that was 10 builds that you can do for BD-1 inspired by iconic protocol droids and astromech droids from Star Wars. Now I have a ton of other ideas in the works for this as well, so make sure you do comment some characters in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel for more. But that is it from me today though, thank you all very much for watching, may the force be with you always.